So in this video, we are going to talk about the domain for what we got in the quotient combination of our two functions here. So we looked at with m of x and n of x, if we've got these two different quotient combinations, we got our answers here. Now we're going to evaluate what the domain is and how that changes from our original functions. So when we're dealing with quotients, that's where it gets a little tricky, and our domain is typically going to change quite a bit compared to what we started with. So I'm going to go back to Desmos here. Remember that our linear and quadratic functions that we started with, our domain is going to be all real numbers. So the first quotient that we had was n of x over m of x. And that we see gives us an asymptote at x equals 1 because we couldn't simplify our quotient. So we ended up with a rational function. We've got this asymptote. It's actually not at 1. Sorry, I'm looking a little not close enough here. It's in between 0 and 1. It's at 1/2. And if we know anything about rationals, we know that we can't divide by 0. So 1/2 for x would give us a denominator of 0. That doesn't work. So that's what's going to give us that asymptote there. So our domain for this first one, I'm going to write out a little bit more here. Our domain is going to be from negative infinity. Again, I can't type infinity. I could type an 8 and then flip it on its side, but I'll just write the words here. So you would write negative with the infinity symbol, comma, and it goes up to 1/2, but doesn't include that. So I have to put parentheses there. And again, I have to do parentheses for infinity because it's not an exact value or number that we can plug into our function. And then it also includes everything greater than 1/2, but not including 1/2 up to infinity. And this is a union of these two separate domains, so we have to put this U symbol in there because there's two parts to our domain since we have that asymptote. So this tells us basically it's everything from negative infinity to infinity except for 1/2. Okay. Now for our other product or quotient, I'll get rid of the green one here. Again, we've got a rational, so it's likely that we're going to have asymptotes here, and we could likely factor this. We know that it's not going to cancel though, but since there's two factors, we actually end up with two asymptotes. So we've got one at x equals 1 here, and one here at x equals -2. Because if we break this down, our denominator, this actually becomes, we could factor this into x plus 2 times x minus 1. Right, so we have those asymptotes at -2 and +1, right? -2 here and +1. So our domain is going to be similar to what we had up here, where we have a union. I gotta change the cursor here. Just duplicate this. So now everything from negative infinity up to -2, right? That's our first asymptote on the left side. And then we go from -2 up to +1. We have to continue using parentheses because we have those asymptotes there, so those values aren't included. We have another union because we basically have three parts to our graph, and then everything greater than 1 up to infinity. So that's our domain for this bottom quotient. So the more you are familiar with rationals and what the asymptotes look like, the easier you can find domain for these kind of problems.